That man doesn't belong here. Someone should check his bags. The whispered words hung in the air like a slap across the face. You're about to witness the most satisfying reversal of fortune ever caught on camera, when a racist confrontation explodes into a moment that will leave you cheering through tears. As Marcus Johnson's weathered hands reached for his favorite cereal, the security guard shadowed him, radio slightly raised. 28 years wearing the badge, saved 14 lives, including 2 children from a burning building in this very neighborhood. Yet today, in his faded jeans and simple t-shirt, he was just another black man out of place in a upscale store. The distinguished gray at his temples caught the harsh fluorescent light as he meticulously checked each item on his military-precise list. His fingers briefly brushed against something in his pocket, a small object that would soon change everything. What happens next will force you to question everything about how we judge others, and why the most powerful person in the room isn't always the loudest. In just 2 minutes, one arrogant man's world is about to come crashing down in the most unexpected way possible. The Parkview Market stands as an oasis of polished marble floors and artisanal food displays in the heart of Lakeshore Heights, a neighborhood where the median home price recently crossed the 7-figure mark. The store's carefully curated atmosphere of exclusivity is unmistakable, from the imported Italian lighting fixtures to the soft classical music floating between aisles of organic produce. Marcus moves with the quiet precision that 28 years in law enforcement instilled in him. His shopping basket contains exactly what he came for, no impulse purchases. He pauses at the specialty coffee section, selecting a particular Ethiopian blend, checking the roast date with the same attention to detail he once gave to crime scenes. His shopping list is folded into perfect quarters, each item written in the same meticulous block letters he used for countless police reports. Several aisles over, Gerald Reynolds navigates the store like he owns it. His tailored blue blazer and designer loafers broadcast his status before he even speaks. When he does, his voice carries the easy confidence of someone who expects to be heard. Store employees straighten their postures as he passes. The young cashier, Sarah, offers him a nervous smile, her eyes darting away quickly when he doesn't return it. The store manager, Peter, hovers near the deli counter, a man perpetually caught between serving customers and serving the bottom line. His conflict-avoidant nature is visible in how he constantly adjusts his tie and scans for potential problems. As Marcus turns down the breakfast aisle, a young mother pulls her child slightly closer. An elderly couple changes direction, suddenly remembering something they needed across the store. The security guard's reflection appears in the freezer. Dr. Glass, maintaining a distance that's just close enough to observe without seeming obvious, to everyone except Marcus, who has spent decades recognizing surveillance. Marcus selects a box of multigrain cereal, checking its nutrition label with the same discipline that once kept him fit for duty. As he turns toward the checkout, he notices the only register open has just one person in line, Gerald Reynolds, and whose eyes narrow slightly as their gazes meet across the polished expanse of Parkview Market. The collision happens in an instant, metal shopping cart against metal shopping cart, a small sound that cracks the carefully maintained silence of Parkview Market. Marcus' cart barely touches Gerald's as they both attempt to enter the checkout lane. "Excuse me," Marcus says, his voice carrying the same calm authority he used at countless traffic stops. Gerald makes a show of inspecting his cart for damage, running manicured fingers along chrome edges. You know," he says, voice pitched just loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "Some people really need to learn how to behave in places like this." The emphasis on "some people" hangs in the air, its meaning unmistakable. Marcus remains still, his expression neutral, a skill perfected through decades of facing far worse than suburban microaggressions. "I said excuse me," Marcus repeats, his tone unchanged. Gerald turns to address the small audience that has formed. "I've been shopping here for 15 years, and I've noticed a definite decline in the clientele." He looks directly at Marcus. "I'm curious. Are you sure you're in the right place? Discount Mart is just down the highway. Marcus' hands tighten around his cart handle, knuckles whitening slightly, the only visible sign of the internal control he's exercising. His face remains composed, jaw set, eyes focused just past Gerald, as though looking at a point on the horizon. The security guard edges closer, hand resting near his radio. Sarah the cashier stares intently at her register, pretending not to notice the confrontation unfolding. Two shoppers pull out phones, anticipating a scene worth recording. Actually, Gerald continues, leaning in to examine Marcus' basket, I couldn't help but notice your selections seem rather unusual for this establishment. He gestures toward the Ethiopian coffee. That's quite expensive, and you seem to be moving through the store in an odd pattern. Marcus takes a deep breath, the kind that used to steady his aim at the shooting range. Sir, I'm simply trying to complete my shopping. Peter! Gerald suddenly calls to the manager, who approaches with visible reluctance. I believe this gentleman may have concealed something. I saw him place an item in his pocket while he thought no one was watching. The store goes silent. All eyes turn to Marcus, whose expression remains stoic, even as decades of dignity are called into question. The security guard takes another step forward, hand now resting on his radio. Peter looks between the two men, conflict etched across his features. Sir, would you mind emptying your pockets? Peter asks, his voice barely above a whisper. For the first time, Marcus' composure cracks, not with anger, but with a profound weariness that seems to age him another decade in an instant. This moment, this indignity, is one he's experienced countless times before and after the badge. What no one in that silent store realizes is that this ordinary Tuesday afternoon is about to transform into something extraordinary. The next 60 seconds will redefine everything about this encounter in ways that not a single witness could possibly imagine. A slight movement near the store entrance draws no attention amid the tension. A woman in her mid-50s enters. Parkview Market, with the kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. Captain Eleanor Rivera, though no one here knows her by that title yet, surveys the scene with eyes that miss nothing. Her charcoal pantsuit is impeccably pressed, her salt and pepper hair swept back in a practical style that hasn't changed in 20 years. Nothing about her appearance screams authority, yet something in her bearing makes two shoppers instinctively step aside as she moves forward. Eleanor pauses at the edge of the frozen food section, taking in the tableau before her. Marcus, standing rigid by his cart, Gerald's smug certainty, the manager's discomfort, the security guard's readiness. She notices the positioning of everyone in the space, calculating angles and distances with the precision of someone who has managed countless volatile situations. Her right hand briefly touches the inside pocket of her jacket, a gesture so subtle it's nearly imperceptible. Her eyes narrow slightly as she recognizes Marcus, though her expression reveals nothing. She studies Gerald for a long moment, categorizing him with the efficiency of someone who has interviewed thousands of people and accurately judged their character within minutes. Eleanor moves forward with measured steps, her shoes making no sound on the polished floor. She could intervene immediately, but she waits. Timing has always been her strongest tactical advantage. She positions herself near the bakery display, close enough to hear every word, but not yet part of the scene. I want his bags checked, Gerald demands, his voice rising. Or better yet, call the actual police. I'm certain they'd be interested in this situation. Peter fumbles with his walkie-talkie, sweat beading on his forehead. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Gerald cuts him off. I know what I saw. The security guard steps forward, uncertain but emboldened by Gerald's confidence. Sir, would you please come with me to the office? Marcus stands perfectly still, the indignity of the moment written in the rigid line of his shoulders. The tension in the store has reached its breaking point. Everyone is watching, waiting, for what happens next. Eleanor chooses this precise moment to move, Like a chess master who has analyzed every possible move and countermove, she steps into the center of the conflict, her timing impeccable, her presence immediately altering the energy of the entire scene. "Excuse me," Eleanor says, her voice calm, yet carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent store. "Is there a problem here, gentlemen?" Gerald turns, irritation flashing across his face at the interruption. "This doesn't concern you, Mom. The store is handling a security issue." Eleanor stands directly between Marcus and Gerald now, her posture relaxed yet somehow commanding the space. "I see. And what exactly is the security concern?" "This man," Gerald gestures dismissively toward Marcus, "was behaving suspiciously and concealed merchandise. I'm simply being a responsible patron." Eleanor's eyebrow rises slightly. "How fascinating. And you personally witnessed this alleged theft?" "Well, Gerald straightens his blazer. "I observed unusual behavior consistent with shoplifting. I know what I saw." Eleanor nods thoughtfully. "Unusual behavior, I see." She turns slightly toward Marcus but addresses the manager. "And you, sir? Are you convinced this customer has stolen something based on another customer's assessment? Of what constitutes unusual behavior?" Peter shifts uncomfortably. "We take all security concerns seriously. Do you always allow customers to act as your loss prevention department?" Eleanor interrupts, her tone still conversational but with an edge of steel beneath. "Or is that a special service reserved for certain shoppers?" Several onlookers exchange glances. Gerald attempts to reassert control. "Look, I don't know who you are, but you're right," Eleanor says with a small smile. "You don't know who I am, just as you don't know who this man is." She gestures toward Marcus. "But you've made quite a series of assumptions, haven't you?" Gerald's face flushes. "This is ridiculous. I'm a respected member of this community." "Are you?" Eleanor asks, genuine curiosity in her voice. "Tell me, does a respected community member regularly accuse strangers of crimes without evidence? Does respect come from how loudly you can demand someone be treated as less than human?" A murmur ripples through the gathering crowd. Gerald looks around for support but finds none. Sometimes, Eleanor continues, her voice now carrying the weight of decades of authority, the true character of a person is revealed not by the uniform they wear, but by how they treat those they believe have no power." Gerald attempts to intimidate Eleanor with his height, stepping closer. "And who exactly are you to lecture me about character?" Eleanor doesn't flinch. Instead, she smiles, not unkindly, but with the confidence of someone holding 4 aces. "I'm simply a concerned citizen who believes dignity isn't something you can take from someone. It's only something you can lose when you try." She turns to the manager, who seems transfixed. "Peter, may I call you Peter? Your name tag. I have a question for you." Her tone shifts to one of genuine curiosity. "Do you truly believe that this man," she gestures toward Marcus without looking away from the manager, "came to your store today with the intention of stealing a box of cereal?" Peter blinks rapidly. Well, we have to investigate." "That wasn't my question," Eleanor says softly. "Based on your professional judgment, do you believe this customer is a thief?" The silence stretches as Peter looks at Marcus, really looks at him for perhaps the first time. Something in Marcus' dignified bearing gives him pause. "No," Peter finally says. "No, I don't." Gerald scoffs loudly. "This is absurd. I know what I saw, and I want security to do their job." Eleanor turns back to Gerald, her voice low but carrying. "Johnson," she says, addressing Marcus by his last name with a hint of respect that doesn't go unnoticed. "Would you mind showing us what's in your pocket? The item this gentleman is so concerned about." Every eye in the store turns to Marcus. Marcus reaches slowly into his pocket, his movements deliberate, maintaining eye contact with Eleanor. The entire store seems to hold its breath as his hand emerges, holding something small that catches the fluorescent light, a polished badge in a leather wallet. Eleanor smiles. "Thank you, Sergeant Johnson." She reaches into her own jacket and produces an identical badge. "Captain Eleanor Rivera," she announces, her voice carrying authority that now has a visible symbol. "Retired last month after 30 years of service. And this," she gestures toward Marcus, "is Sergeant Marcus Johnson, one of the finest officers I've ever had the privilege to work alongside." The collective gasp is audible. Gerald takes an involuntary step backward, his face draining of color. 28 years of exemplary service, Eleanor continues. Recipient of the Medal of Valor for rushing into a burning building 3 years ago, right here in Lakeshore Heights. And if I recall correctly, she glances around the store. Her 2 children rescued from the 3rd floor before the structure collapsed. The security guard's posture changes instantly, straightening to attention almost unconsciously. Peter's mouth opens and closes without forming words. "Sergeant, Johnson served this community, your community, for nearly 3 decades, Eleanor says, addressing the gathered crowd now. He's been shot twice in the line of duty. He's talked 17 people out of suicide. He's delivered 3 babies in emergency situations." She takes a step closer to Gerald, whose arrogance has evaporated entirely. "While you were being a respected member of the community, Sergeant Johnson was protecting that community with his life, every single day." A movement near the back of the crowd draws attention. An elderly man pushes forward with tears in his eyes. "Officer Johnson," he says, voice trembling. You're the one who saved my grandson, the apartment fire on Maple Street." Marcus nods, a subtle acknowledgement. "I never got to thank you properly," the man continues. "They told us you left before the press arrived. Said you didn't want recognition." Eleanor's smile broadens slightly. "That sounds exactly like the Sergeant Johnson I know." Gerald attempts to slide toward another checkout lane, but the crowd has formed a subtle barrier. "Sir," Eleanor addresses Gerald directly, "you made some very serious accusations today, based on nothing but your own prejudice. You attempted to humiliate a man who has devoted his life to public service. You demanded he be treated as a criminal because, let's be honest, of the color of his skin." Gerald shakes his head, desperation in his eyes. That's not. "The true security of a community," Eleanor continues, addressing everyone now, "never comes from exclusion or suspicion. It comes from recognizing the dignity and value of every person, regardless of appearance. That's what real service looks like." She turns to Marcus. "Isn't that right, Sergeant?" For the first time, Marcus speaks, his voice steady and measured. "In 28 years wearing the badge, I learned that the most dangerous assumption is thinking you know everything about a person at first glance." He looks directly at Gerald. "That mistake can cost lives in my profession." The manager steps forward, shame evident in his posture. "Sir, Officer Johnson, please accept our deepest apologies. This should never have happened." The security guard removes his cap. "It's an honor to meet you, sir. My brother's in the academy now because of officers like you." Gerald finally finds his voice. "I didn't know." "That's precisely the point," Eleanor interrupts. "You didn't know, yet you were absolutely certain." The manager's apology comes with visible remorse. "Mr. Johnson, your purchases today are completely on the house. It's the least we can do after this terrible misunderstanding." Marcus shakes his head. "That won't be necessary. Please," Peter insists. "We need to make this right somehow." Marcus considers for a moment. "If you're determined to do something, make a donation to the Youth Police Academy. They help kids from tough neighborhoods see a future in public service instead of on the streets." Peter nods eagerly. "We'll do that. Today, and more." Gerald attempts to approach, his entire demeanor transformed. "Officer Johnson, I can't begin to apologize enough." "Save it," Eleanor interrupts, not unkindly but firmly. Reflect on it instead. Ask yourself why you were so ready to assume the worst. The store has transformed. Customers who had avoided Marcus now watch him with respect and shame. The security guard stands at a respectful distance, clearly uncertain how to process that he was shadowing a decorated police veteran. Marcus turns to Eleanor, a genuine smile warming his features for the first time. Typical Rivera, making an entrance when it counts. Eleanor laughs softly. Old habits die hard. How's retirement treating you? Still adjusting, Marcus admits. 28 years wearing the uniform. Sometimes I forget who I am without it. The uniform never made you who you are, Johnson, Eleanor says, loud enough for others to hear. It just gave the rest of us a visible reminder of what was always inside. Marcus glances around at the watching faces. After all these years, I still have days where I'm reminded that to some people, I'll always be suspicious first, human second. For the first time, vulnerability shows through his composed exterior. Even after all those years protecting them, the elderly grandfather approaches again, this time with a young boy of about 8. This is my grandson, Tommy, the one you carried out of the fire. He's wanted to meet you ever since that day. The boy looks up at Marcus with unalloyed admiration. Wait, did you really carry me through the fire? Marcus kneels to the boy's level. I did, and you were very brave. I'm going to be a firefighter or a police officer when I grow up, Tommy announces. Either way, Marcus says seriously. Well, the most important thing you'll ever wear isn't the uniform. It's how you treat people when no one's watching. As Marcus completes his shopping with Eleanor beside him, the customers and staff view him through new eyes. The same man they had feared minutes earlier is now revealed as someone who had dedicated his life to their protection. Uniforms can identify us from the outside, Marcus says as they reach the exit, but it's our actions that reveal who we truly are within. He glances back at the store, at Gerald still standing, frozen by the register. Sometimes respect isn't automatically given, but when it's earned, it can change not just a moment, but an entire community. This story forces us to confront an uncomfortable question. How often do we judge others based on appearances, rather than character? What assumptions did you make today about someone you encountered? If this account moved you, don't miss our full documentary series on retired officers who continue transforming their communities long after hanging up their badges. Their stories will change how you see service and sacrifice. Next week, we'll bring you the incredible twist in the story of a firefighter who was turned away by the very neighbor whose life he would save just hours later. Join our community discussion on prejudice and perception at the link below. Your story and perspective matter in this ongoing conversation about respect and dignity in our communities. Share this video now, because the next person who needs to learn this lesson might be sitting across from you at dinner tonight.